The Zoras are fascinating due to the great genetic adaptability over the long history of Hyrule. The long history is cryptic, and until Breath of the Wild we had no chronicled Zora history that could explain the feats of the race and the tribe outside of the games. Only outmatched by the Hylians, they are one of Hyrule's races that has historically taken one of the hardest hits, most notably its royal bloodlines, and at the hand of Ganondorf. Their allegiance to the Hyrulean royal family meant getting caught in between in the crossfire of the endless skirmishes with Ganon numerous times. In this video, thus, we will only partially touch upon the evolutionary line of the race, as we have a much more detailed Zora timeline video which you can check after this one. Instead, we will go in depth into the royal dynasties that ruled the Zora and the many tragedies that struck them. But first, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Always tied to the water element as the fish people, the history of the Zora starts with the red and blue coloured Lake Floria Perella in the era of the goddess Hylia and the era of the sky. Over thousands of years, this race more than any other evolved into a muscular, fish-like humanoid tribe, and with their increase in intelligence, the Zora eventually established their ground at the source of Hyrule's greatest river, which was named in honour after the race who controlled its source from Zora's domain. Back in the eras of the three great Hylian, Zora and Gerudo kingdoms, the Zora, just like the Hylians, had a royal dynasty. Little is known about the origins of the royal Zora Dobon dynasty other than it was established sometime after the Zora evolved from the Perella. They controlled the most crucial water source in Hyrule. They also protected and took care of their deity lord, Jabu Jabu, and safeguarded the Zora Sapphire. From Ocarina of Time's official player guide, we also know that by the era of the Hero of Time, no less than 15 other Debons had held the title as ruler of the Zora, prior to King Zora Debon XVI. This monarch was no doubt the most influential Zora ruler until King Dorephan of the Era of the Wild, but it was also during his reign that conflict with Ganondorf arose and the tragedies of the female members of the Zora royal family struck.
During or shortly after the Hyrulean Civil War, King Zora Debon XVI and his queen had their only child, a daughter named Princess Ruto. Upon her mother's premature death and her father's fall from physical shape, Ruto became an ill-tempered child who did things on her own, primarily taking the responsibility of feeding Lord Jabu Jabu until she ended up inside the deity. After Ganondorf cursed it when King Debon XVI refused to hand the king of the Gerudo the Zora Sapphire. Ganondorf would mark the beginning of the Zora royal family's troubles and tragedies. Luckily, the young hero of time came in time to the rescue and with his great courage escorted Princess Ruto out to safety and defeated the source of Lord Jabu Jabu's pain, Baronade. The at first skeptical princess was impressed by this green-dressed boy who risked his life for her sake. Realizing that he was after the spiritual stone of water, aka the Zora Sapphire, also known as the Zora engagement ring, Ruto believed that Link was in love and asked for her hand, so she accepted this proposal and kept it secret from her father. This turned out to be a grave mistake by Ruto, as Ganondorf claimed power and after 7 years of brutal reign over Hyrule, froze Zora's domain with King Zora on his throne and forced Princess Ruto to enter the Zora Water Temple at the bottom of Lake Hylia.
Hereafter, Link had unfrozen her father and gained the Zora tunic. Link and Ruto were reunited after all these years as adults, but one cannot exactly call it a happy reunion, as Ruto was angry at Link, who first here deep underwater realized that he had vowed to take the Zora princess as his fiancée all those years ago. However, Ruto had other priorities and had a battle against Morpha that would eventually result in her death and awakening as the Sage of Water after Link got rid of the plague of the Water Temple. When Link ultimately triumphs over Ganondorf, we can see King Zora along with Mido mourning the passing of Ruto and Saria in the ending credits. Fulfilling their duties as sages also came with the ultimate price, the loss of their mortal existence. In the child timeline, Link is sent back, meaning that Ruto is still alive and well in that branch. However, in the adult timeline, Ruto remains dead, and while waiting for Link's return, still respecting the wedding vow she made to him when they were children, never produced offspring, which likely marks the end of the Dobon bloodline. In The Wind Waker, which follows the path of the adult timeline, we see the Rito, which were a product of the Zora's amazing ability to evolve and adapt quickly throughout the ages. We do find the Zora sage Laruto, but no mention of any Zora royalty can be found. The Rito themselves do not have a monarchy in place, but instead a chief.
However, throughout the ages, the memory of Ocarina of Time's sages is still passed on from generation to generation. In Breath of the Wild, the 5th tablet containing the Zora's rich history mentions both her and Lord Jabu Jabu by name, and even Divine Beast Varuta is a direct reference to her, both being a testament to her memory, which lived on amongst her people. In the Child timeline, where Ruto lived, the Dawn dynasty most likely continued forward, but it would not be long until Tragedies struck the Zora royal family, which had greatly militarized since the era of the Hero of Time, and especially during the events of Twilight Princess and the Twilight era. With the great king of the Zora dying prior to the rise of Zant, his minions executing Queen Rutella during the invasion in front of her own people to send a message: pledge allegiance to the usurper king or get crushed.
To make matters worse, he orders his forces to freeze Zora's domain, trapping its inhabitants under a thick layer of ice. Her son Prince Relis, who escapes this frozen fate, attempts to seek help but falls ill due to his prolonged absence from the waters of the domain. Luckily, he is found by the amnesia-stricken Ilia and nursed back to health by the shaman Rinado in Kakariko village, securing the Zora's royal bloodline. One day, he will ascend the throne to continue his mother and father's reign as the new king of the Zoras. Meanwhile, in the Downfall timeline, without an heir to the royal bloodline and with Ganondorf slaying the Hero of Time, the Zora race splits, with one group leaving the land of Hyrule to avoid the looming imprisoning war, and along with their guardian deity Jabu Jabu set off to the land of Labrina, and the other group staying behind and evolving into the River Zoras seen in A Link to the Past. They establish a new monarch to rule over them, simply named King Zora. Which finally brings us to Breath of the Wild. Taking place many ages after any of the other games in the series, it is unsure which royal bloodline the current royal family stems from, or even has any blood connection to them at all. Monarchs do not always span back for millennia. New royal family trees can arise from individuals who played a crucial role in the history of their respective people.
A real-life example would be the creation of the Dutch royal bloodline, which only spans back a few hundred years, with William of Orange playing a pivotal role during the Dutch revolt against the King of Spain between 1560 and 1581. A similar thing could have occurred with the Zoras as well, with King Dorephan, the current monarch of the Zora, possibly having an ancestor who ascended the throne based on a great display of strength and courage during one of Hyrule's many conflicts. Which would not be surprising, as the current monarch of the Zora, throughout his 2-century-long reign, has probably one of the more successful rulers in the history of the Zora race, showing great strength and courage himself when he swiftly dealt with the stray guardian that crossed into their domain during the Great Calamity. Across Lanayru, multiple tablets detailing the history of the Zora people can be found. These stone tablets were commissioned and mostly written by King Dorephan himself, with the exception of 2 addendums and memoir of a gifted stonemason. They describe the origin of Zora traditions, the founding of Zora's domain, and the actions of King Dorephan and Sidon following the Great Calamity and more. As mentioned before, the 5th one describes the memory of Princess Ruto.
King Dorephan, seeing his daughter chosen as one of the 5 champions of Hyrule, saw this as a great honor, and similar to the age-old stories of Ruto, hoped his daughter too would become a legendary savior of the land of Hyrule. Unfortunately, we all know how that worked out in the end. With Mifa's passing, the continuation of King Dorephan's line will ultimately fall on Prince Sidon. Mifa, having a strong and courageous brother like his father before him, provides a second chance to secure the reign of the current royal family of the Zoras. Prince Sidon, who was second in line to inherit the throne unless Mifa intended to renounce the throne or die prematurely, has shown great courage in the past. His most famous deed being the slaying of an Octorok the size of a mountain that terrorized the fishermen of Lurelin village. The Octorok swallowed many unfortunate souls, and for a while it seemed that Sidon had suffered the same fate. However, while in the belly of the beast, he continued to attack it with his spear from the inside, resulting in the demise of the giant monster. This deed has been immortalized on one of the stone tablets, and even the inhabitants of Lurelin village still pass down the story of the prince who slew the fell Octorok.
Mifa, who grew up alongside Link, developed deep feelings for the Hylian during the many years they spent together. Sidon, who was too young to understand, was unaware of his sister's feelings, which is why he didn't recognize Link when he first entered Zora's domain after his 100-year-long slumber. Mifa was already planning to abdicate, since she was planning to ask Link to marry her when the calamity was over, making her lose the right to the throne anyway. Her untimely death during the day Ganon rose from Hyrule Castle sealed the deal for Sidon to take her place on the throne instead, especially now that her spirit has been freed from within the walls of Divine Beast Varuta and been able to move on to the afterlife together with King Rome and the remaining deceased champions.
We know that the sequel to Breath of the Wild could potentially take a very dark turn, which could very well also mean that the Zora royal bloodline is in grave danger once again. If Sidon were to fall in battle when Ganondorf makes his inevitable return, and with no queen at Dorothin's side, the Zora people could suffer another massive blow to their existence, perhaps even the end of the aquatic race as we know it. The stakes are high, not just for Link and Zelda, but Hyrule's many races as well. As we have seen during the many stories covered in this video, the history of the Zora people is filled with tragedy, and we can only hope that this time, the history books will contain a more positive outcome for them.
And now a big announcement. We have launched our Inside Breath of the Wild 2 collection. It only has one design, but in return it is our Triforce with Ganondorf, Zelda and Link. Fully designed by our artist Podemonium, who has also designed the channel banner and a number of our thumbnails. The premium shirt in this collection is now available for $20. Yes, we discounted it $5 so that more of you will be able to afford it, and the design is absolutely awesome, so I think you will definitely enjoy it. Check out the link in the description down below. The link to the store should also be on the screen, so I hope you will get the most out of it, and this is our Black Friday holiday deal to all of you. Thank you so much for watching the video, and thank you so much for 225,000 subscribers. We wouldn't have made it without you. If you haven't already, on this video, since this was a special for the 225,000 subscribers video, another one is coming this Sunday, make sure to leave a like on this video so that more people can see it and appreciate it. And if you haven't already and are not among our 225,000 subscribers, then make sure to subscribe, press that shiny notification bell as we now push for 250,000 subscribers. We begin the hunt right now, guys. Thank you so much. And as always, a big thank you to all our patrons on patreon.com/Common Realm. We need more supporters there so we can make even better productions than even this, and timelines and so on. We have big plans, but we need some support on patreon.com/Common Realm. Anyway, we'll see you in the next video, and until then, check out one of these two great videos.